All right, we got a good one today. We got Mr. Brian's 2011 Buick LaCrosse here. We are going to knock out the strut assemblies on the front end of this thing. Luckily, he bought the complete assembly, so we don't have to move any springs over or anything. So this job will be very easy, very straightforward. I say that he already tried doing it at his shop at home, and he was having some struggles, so maybe it won't be as easy as I'm thinking. But either way, we're going to go ahead and get up in there and take a look at it. My lift is broken currently, so right now it only works as a large jack stand. So I'm going to get a jack under here. I'm going to get it jacked up. I'm going to get both these front tires off the ground and at full droop. And then I'm just going to set it on the lift arm with some spacers and use these as a jack. And then, yeah, we will get it up, and then I will pick up from there. I also noticed this front bumper sticking out a bit here, so we're going to go ahead and take care of that for him as well. We'll get that put back together. All right, so here we go. We got the driver's side tire up off the ground. I will be showing the strut assembly change on the passenger side. I always do it on the second side, just so I have a practice run at it, and I know all the weird quirks, but I just wanted to show you. So Mr. Brian was having a very hard time with this lug nut here. You can see it is very rounded out. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a 12.22 millimeter socket, and we're going to hammer that puppy onto this thing, and then we're going to zap it off with our impact. I didn't have an issue with any of the other ones, so I don't really know what's going on with that one, but yeah, let's see if we can get that puppy off of there. All right, here it is, hammered on. Maybe we'll give it one more tap for good measure. Yeah, she seems to be on there. Now, I put that lug nut back on just so that way it would hold the tire. Let's see what happens here. And now, to get that lug out of my socket, I will just put it in my vise, and I'll put a punch down through the socket and just beat it out with a hammer. Here we are. So that should be, this brake line should be down in here. So Mr. Brian already tried on this side, and I'll show you where he was having problems. But so your brake line here, you can grab this rubber grommet, pull it right out like that. Let me move my headlight real quick.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
And this is a good time to note here that we're doing the entire assemblies here. You can buy these without the coil springs in them, but it is so much easier if you buy the complete assembly. I will have a link up here in the video and in the description below for a good set of assemblies from Amazon, as well as the struts if you want to save a little bit of money and compress the springs and swap them over. But I do recommend getting the entire assembly. It makes the job a heck of a lot easier. But all right, getting right into it. So let me see if I can't just hold my flashlight in such a way. Sorry, without the lift, I'm having to hunch way over. But you'll see, this is your sway bar link here. A very important note, and I think this is where he may have messed up. So you can see he snapped a T40 Torx off in the end of it, which you need to hold this stud while you back this nut off. You need to make sure you have both tires off the ground and supported when you do this. Otherwise, if the other tire's on the ground, it'll be pulling down with force right here, making this terribly difficult to get off. But if you have it up in the air, it's super easy. You can just pop it in and out once it's off. So we need to figure out how to get this Torx bit out of the end. Otherwise, we're going to be in for a world of hurt. So give me just a bit. Let me work on that. This is something you won't be facing. Now, if you live up north, yours may be rusty. You'll probably want to wire wheel the threads here before you start taking this puppy off. But yeah, down here, that's not an issue. So let me get the end of this puppy out of there. However, I'm going to do that, and then we'll pick up from there. Here we are. So what I ended up doing is just putting the impact on it and using the vibration from the impact as I spun the stud, and it popped the broken bit right out of the end. So that was pretty dang easy. So what I'm going to show you is I got this fancy little Blue Point pass-through ratchet. You don't have to have one of these. This just makes it way easier for me. You can use a wrench, but you're going to want to use the open end or a box end of a manual wrench. But a ratchet wrench gets pinned in between these tabs. I don't have one with a thin enough wall. Sorry, I'm trying to get my light up in there good. So the way this one will work is I can put this on here like this, and then I can pass my T40 right through the backside here and hold it while I ratchet it off of there. So that's how I'm going to take it off. All right, there it is. Nut is off, so you can just push it right through and set it to the side like that. Now we got these two 18 millimeters down here in the knuckle. So I'm going to hit the nut side with an impact and hold this side with a wrench, and that will zip them both out. If any of them get bound, you just use your hand down here once you have the nut off and kind of wiggle wobble it, then you can push the bolt out like that. But my camera's real low on battery, so I'm gonna let it charge while I take these two out. Then I'll show you how to get the top side loose. All right, here we are. We gently laid the knuckle down so it's hanging on the lower control arm. You also see that he needs a CV axle in a bad way, but I'm gonna assume, Mr. Brian, that he's gonna wanna try and do that himself, and I think he should. So we're not gonna swap that today. Plus the only thing we've taken off is these upper strut bolts that go along with that. But all that aside, here we go. So you're gonna come to the top side. Once you get that free, you'll take this little cap off. Unfortunately, the Rock Auto ones, they don't fit on this because they've changed the size of the nut. But that is a 24 millimeter nut. So we're going to go ahead and put the impact on here. And then what I'm gonna do is reach through the wheel well with my hand and hold this coil spring up here with my left hand while I shoot this off, and then it will drop free and I can swing it out carefully. All right, I'm hoping that you'll be able to see a little bit from up here. I need both my hands to do this part, but essentially we got the strut out, we swung it out with our left hand. You're gonna take the old nut and this old spacer cap up here. The new ones will come with these, so we can get rid of those. But we're going to carefully stick it in from the bottom and then reach up top and start the nut, and then we are not going to tighten that nut down on the top. We're just going to take it up just a little bit so it will hold it until we get our knuckle back into place, because it can twist and rotate. So we want to make sure that alignment gets made correctly to the knuckle, so we can get those bolts in, and then we'll tighten it down on the top at the very end.
12 seconds later.
Check out this Rock Auto quality. So same brand, Struts, came in the same box from the same company. The top nut on this one is a 22 millimeter. The driver's side nut, 19 millimeter. How stupid. Put it up in here, get it up in the hole, hold it with our left hand, and get it started with our right. Just like that. Now we will use our impact to get it just a little bit. We don't want to tighten it down there, so we want it to be able to spin a little bit. Now we can push our knuckle up and get it started and get the bolts in that before we tighten down the top. So here we are. You'll see I do not have these two bolts in the knuckle tightened down. That is because I did talk to Mr. Brian. He wants me to change the CV axle, which is completely busted. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. But I tightened this guy back down with my little pass-through ratchet. But like I said, you can use any open-end wrench and a T40 Torx to hold the end here and get that back in. I also tightened the top, but I wanted to tell you, so I shot it with an impact, which is the easiest way to do it. But you do want to make sure you always put an Allen wrench in the top. This is an H6. And this is a 22 millimeter nut, so I'm gonna grab a big wrench and we're gonna make sure that is nice and tight. And then I'm gonna dive right into the CV axle. But at that point, obviously you tighten down the two knuckle bolts there and put your tire back on and you're good to go. It's that easy to change the struts. So if the video helped you out, hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you wanna see more. And if you have a busted CV axle, that video will be in my channel. So you can go find that one as well.